Good afternoon. Welcome to Uncommon Sense, episode 61. Dean Holmes and Craig Kamanis. For those that haven't met him or seen or heard from him in a while, Craig Kamanis is back on the Uncommon Sense podcast. Craig, welcome back. Study tour or diary management?
Or absence makes the heart grow fonder, Dean. Maybe I just needed a little bit of time apart from you to make me realise how much I appreciate you and all of the listeners of Uncommon Sense. It's wonderful to be back.
Very well said, Craig. Thank you. You've done well there to make me smile. So welcome back. And you've been travelling around a little bit. And so that leads us to a few of our examples in conversation today in and around innovation. You love flying with a variety of airlines, of course, but that you learn a little bit along the way. So tell us about your most recent innovation experience with your favorite airline, who's not a sponsor of this podcast, Hamish and Andy style. If we can get a sponsorship from it, we will take it. Over to you, Craig.
Yeah, thank you, Dean. Forever I've been saying to people, there's two things that haven't innovated well. That's boarding a plane and checking in at a hotel. And, we won't go with the hotel one today. We'll go with the plane one today. But both of those in my recent experiences have innovated. And I guess before I tell the story, we need to, just cover off for everyone again, innovation versus invention, where, lots of people think when they hear the word innovation that some massive project has to take place and we've got to build something or create something or invent something, where that's purely invention, where innovation is micro changes to a process to make it better. In this case, my example with boarding an airline, and it's not in every airport. It just happened to be at Perth Airport, where Qantas has now adjusted to group boarding. So they have groups 1 to 6, and you board in the order of how they call each group. So group 1 is theatre done. Now that's not new. You've had
innovation, Craig.
Yeah, that's not new. And I went, oh, well, but it is kind of new domestically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I looked and went, okay, well, that's interesting. But where the innovation came was the pre-announcement, Dean. So, everyone's favourite, and what they said is, you will notice on the screens, ladies and gentlemen, that we are boarding the plane today by groups. What's important for you to note, though, is if your group isn't called or hasn't yet been called, your boarding pass will not work on our scanner.
Okay.
There's the innovation, the one sentence that actually calms and relaxes every single person, because we know people in airport terminals, they leave their brain at the door and they go in and they become selfish, right? And they run around and they don't care if they bump you or push you or shove you or whack you with their bag. That's just what happens in airports. But that one sentence calmed every person down on that flight to go, well, until they say boarding group 3 is now boarding, my pass isn't working anyway.
So I won't bother. I won't bother. Yeah.
Well, why bother, right? And so I watched this unfold, and it was a peaceful boarding of the plane.
Yep.
It was more relaxed, it was more efficient, and it got it done. But the innovation, Dean, was that one sentence.
And it was because the communication has always been done, like definitely with international. Zone E, you can't board, for example. And I think that if you happen to line up before this innovation, was that you could sneak through, put a smile on your face and things like that. And so if the ticket doesn't scan, the technology has enabled or forced everyone to act as if they are meant to act, which is rational and listening to the announcements overall. So you think that made the plane go faster, or the getting on the plane go faster?
It certainly made it more relaxed. There was less pushing and shoving because there wasn't so many people trying to, all pile in at once.
Yep.
And I think the other thing that it does is, because normally, we'd like to welcome back our, Platinum and One World travelers, and you can board first, and it kind of segregates everyone a little bit, like type of thing, where just by going, Zone 1's now boarding, it was evident who was Zone 1 and who what, but it just also didn't
obviously you aspire to be zone 1, Craig. So
Yeah, now you want to be zone 1, right? But
continue that journey.
you know, you're in your zone, on you get, but your boarding pass won't work if we haven't called you zone. Now, the truth is, Dean, I've got no idea whether your boarding pass would have worked or not. And it doesn't actually matter.
No, exactly. And it's funny because we've always told everyone that sentence, but there's been loopholes, which is the human. And so hopefully we've closed the loophole with technology, which then makes the boarding process faster. And so, Craig, you spoke about this difference between innovation and invention. Yeah. So we're not trying to invent a new form of transport. We're just trying to make small innovations, small incremental changes in our business that improves the speed or the process or the journey or the experience overall. And so that innovation would have improved the speed of boarding, but it would have also improved the experience of boarding for the vast majority of people. Only the person that didn't hear that announcement and was trying to scan earlier would have lost it. And so a thing about that for our financial planning businesses, I think it's really important to know that we don't think that we're not in the business of inventing new financial advisors. So, or a new financial advice industry. When we think about improving our businesses or innovating, we're trying to take an existing process and make a 10 or 20% enhancement to that process, either speed or experience, and have that measured over time.
Exactly right, mate. And it's worth kind of reflecting on of late some of the feedback I've been getting as I've been visiting advice firms and stuff. And it's the first time I've kind of heard it, Dean, but there's an unsettling where, you know, I've actually now heard people go, this AI thing's actually starting to scare me a bit. You know, I don't understand it enough. I don't know what it's going to do. I don't know how it's going to be. And I think that's because they're viewing it with an inventor hat on, not an innovator hat on. And the inventor would go, well, I'm just going to create AI that takes everyone out and can do it, you know, advice with a human perfectly to how the consumer would want it. And you know, and I guess part of these people who are developing this stuff want you to think like that. But we owe it all to each other to go, actually, no, stop the inventor thought, start the innovator thought with it, and work out how to work with it in your firm, because it's not going to take over the entire part of the process. Because as we were talking about, Dean, earlier, otherwise people still wouldn't be buying advice businesses and values wouldn't be there and the demand for them wouldn't be there either, which we know on all fronts is really strong at the moment. But seeing that it's reaching some people now. Yeah,
and so to talk about that kind of tech AI journey, I think I still believe as you do that and it might get stronger, this need and demand or desire for human to human connection will actually increase over time, not decrease. So if the pendulum of online communicating and interacting has swung a long way since obviously since phones and also then COVID, there was a lot of communication that way. And I think we're seeing that there'll be a desire for people to swing it back the other way. And so have one-on-one video calls is very similar to one-on-one meeting where you can physically touch the person. But it's that one-on-one interaction versus the one-to-many interactions. And to talk to a machine still increases frustration overall at this point in time. And so the AI components that I want people to think about when they're taking that innovation hat and going, well, my industry is still going to be there. So how can I partner with this technology just to do one or two things that I couldn't do beforehand? And that's the first step in the process. And for anyone that's under 40, no one taught you how to use any piece of technology up until this point in time. So I say to people, no one taught us how to use Facebook. No one taught you how to use Instagram. No one taught you how to use TikTok or those things. You just worked it out. And because of how new this is, there is an element of listening to others and then just having to work it out, but just focusing on one thing overall and seeing if you could get that to work. The one that I'm most focused on at the moment, Craig, is really working with advisors to just summarize the meeting. It may not be a 10 out of 10 outcome, but it's definitely greater than 5, and it's definitely closer to 8. And in some regards, it has a better memory of the meeting than your recollection of the meeting. And so if you were to take that innovation mindset and go, now I just want to use it for this one small thing, and I'm going to use it consistently. I'm going to learn it, then use it consistently for the next 3 months to see how it changed my business. Because nothing will improve your business overnight anyway. The innovation has to be thought through. How we're going to use it, when are we going to use it, and then you've got to use it for a period of time and reflect on that process to see if it's actually making a difference to your business.
Yeah. No, for sure, mate. And I think that's a really wonderful example of how to, use it to innovate. And, I know we talk about it a lot, and I know that's what most people are doing, but it's evident now that there's a percentage of the advisor space that are a little bit fearful of it. And first of all, I commend those people for saying that out loud, because that might buck a kind of a bit of a trend. Actually, you know what? I'm a bit worried about it. So I commend people for talking about it and saying it out loud. But I think continue to surround yourself with people like Dean and the practices you work with and stuff who think about this more deeply and have thought through how it will innovate and help a firm rather than it be an invention that comes in and crushes us and takes things over in the direction we want it to.
Absolutely. And so, Craig, one of the things that I want to talk about as well is what stifles the innovation. So you just paint the scenario and then you can answer the question. We'll talk about it. You get everyone in your business in a room. So the boss says, we need to do some innovating, which is a great statement coming down from the top, gets everyone in a room and says, right, let's do some innovation. What stifles the innovation from that point?
Well, normally it's the boss at that point, not full stopping and just stopping. It's the first one is them going, but my idea is, and we all typically know that you'll have maybe the odd person who's willing to challenge that, but you'll also have the majority of people that kind of fall in and go, oh, that's a great idea. And next minute we're off on a path of one person's idea rather than full collaboration of people speaking and thinking.
That's let's get some business cards, Craig. I had that.
Yeah, okay, let's do that.
So then, therefore, you jump on the bandwagon really quickly. So, this being aware of, you can create the concept of an innovation culture within the company. That is possible. You can have these brainstorming sessions as well at different levels within the company to think of processes. The management can put the framework around it. So today we're going to talk about the new client process and see what we can innovate in terms of the new client process. So that's a framework as opposed to saying what's right and wrong. Management can be the conductor, but they can't be the player of all the instruments at the same time. So they can conduct that conversation so there's a flow outcome and that everyone is heard in the room, but ideally you're not speaking at all because you're just trying to get the ideas from everyone. And if you don't get the ideas, you're not able to innovate or improve on any of the ideas because you're not hearing any of them.
Yeah, and I think the other one that can stifle it, mate, is the fear of failure. Right?
Yep.
What if it doesn't work? And I think one great thing I've learned, with working with you, Dean, is that we're small businesses, right? If it doesn't work, it's okay to stop doing it straight away.
Yeah.
You don't have to prove to no, I know this isn't working, but I'm going to keep doing it anyway. I know this, it's not working. I'm not sleeping at night, but I've got to keep doing it anyway because I said I would. The best thing you can do is stop doing it and just admit and go, I've learned something. It's not working, move on. So you don't need that fear of failure with innovation, because you can actually just stop doing it if it doesn't work.
Yeah, correct. And that's the mentality of failing fast is actually really good, because you fail fast and you learn and can therefore iterate as a result. The other thing that stifles a bit of innovation, Craig, is sometimes compliance departments stifle a little bit of innovation. And so I had this from, if you go back a little bit in time before AI, there was a view to, hey, let's just record our meetings so that I've got on file the idea of I've recorded my meeting, so therefore I've got the transcript and the video of all the stuff I spoke about with the client. Great idea, and that was innovative back then, right? But one of the things that the challenge that happened with compliance departments was, and it was in their worst interest, is they're like, well, you can't expect me to sit there and watch a 2-hour meeting. So therefore you can't, you still have to do the file notes. And so that was an example of whereby compliance didn't want to innovate, which actually stifled the innovation and that learning and failing process, Craig, because it's like, oh, if compliance won't let me keep the videos on file and they need a file note, well, then what's the point in recording the videos in the first place? And we lost that iteration. And so that's on both sides' fault, right? So as the advisor, we should have taken compliance on the journey as well. So maybe they should have been in the room when we were doing that innovation brainstorm. But also on the compliance side is like understanding that we're trying to improve processes. And so whenever you improve a process or look to, there's always going to be tension from those things. We're not trying to break the law. Like, we're not trying to be Uber where they just started operating and therefore avoided all the rules. But we do want to be able to understand where you can push and pull at different points in time with your other departments that might be impacted.
And mate, you've just hit the nail on the head on a really important point of innovation. And that's, when you start it, have the right people in the room. So think about who needs to be part of that journey and get them in the room at the beginning. Don't go and innovate something and then go, oh, I wonder if this breaks the law. I'll not just get the legal team in there now. What do you think of this legal team? They're like, oh God, whereas you could have saved yourself a whole heap of work by having them there at the beginning. Also, from a risk management and a governance perspective and that type of thing, if you work with those teams up front and say, this is what I'm trying to achieve, and then you engage with them along the path, you'll actually get to a faster outcome that everyone's comfortable with, because everyone's got all the facts, everyone knows all the information, and together you'll actually innovate.
Absolutely.
And I know I told my governance team recently, and I know this isn't a plug for our stuff or whatever it is, but it's just on that example, is I actually said, the last 3 or 4 things we've done, you guys have actually been really innovative. Like, and it's so great to see. And like, why are we telling the markets that we've actually got innovative governance actions going on and that type of stuff, right? But it's because everyone's involved from the right time.
Yeah. And there's a great example. There's a great concept of having the empty seat at the boardroom. I'm sure someone said this first, of course, but the person that we often forget, both from your compliance example to advisors to internal, is the customer or client at the end of the day. So you got this concept where you have a empty seat in the boardroom for every meeting, and it's meant to represent the customer in that interaction. And so that's the last piece of the puzzle, is that you can innovate all you want, but if you're not involving, if it doesn't matter to the customer in that whole thing, it's like, was the innovation really worth it overall? And so that's my favorite one over the years, is that advisors like to complain about advice technology, Craig, if you've ever heard of that, and they're really annoyed about the SOA. And one of the things I keep hearing feedback around is that they hate the front page of the SOA. And that's where innovation doesn't really meet customers, because they're worrying about things that's important to them, but the client or the customer has already turned past that page before they haven't even read the cover page. They don't need to. And so that's where being really aware of the client experience, the client side of any innovation is so key.
Yep.
I don't know what Qantas probably, they literally would probably line people up and get them to board airplanes at different ratios in order to work out what the great client experience is as a result, and have people along. And so the idea of, I know there's some larger firms like Viridian has a client board, I suppose, like some clients that they go to. And so we all probably have a few clients in our business that we could go to with, hey, I was thinking about doing XYZ or improving XYZ. Can I talk to you about that?
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a long-standing so don't sit around a boardroom guessing what they want. Actually ask them.
You learn a lot. Fox and Hare did, before Fox and Hare started, they did a couple of focus groups. So they got their target market in a room, facilitated by someone external, which meant that you took out the financial planning biases in terms of my process is the best in the world, and just listen to what all the feedback was from 25 to 45-year-olds about what they wanted from their financial planning relationship, and then go and build those elements. Yes, we have to do an SOA still, but don't focus on that when you're trying to build a great client experience.
Yeah. No, exactly right, mate. Exactly right. So we're innovating. We're not inventing. We're thinking through things. We're listening to people. We're not going to fear the AI invention. We're going to embrace the AI innovation. And, I would say to our listeners out there, or if you know someone out there that is kind of fearing it and wondering where it fits and where it doesn't, drop us a line, reach out. I think, Dean in his business coaching has great conversations around this stuff all the time. And sometimes you just need to talk to someone who's maybe not as close to your business as others, and just sort of work your way through that. But, innovation is going to continue to be the key, Dean. There's no doubt about it.
There's no doubt about that, Craig. So perhaps we'll innovate our UncommonCents strategy over time. But yes, we want to make sure that we're listening to your feedback, helping you along the way, but also iterating what we think is valuable along the way. So yeah, that's the call out for the customer of the listener in terms of UncommonCents. Put a message on LinkedIn, send Craig and I a note, however you want to do it, and give us feedback on how we can innovate and improve what we bring to you each and every fortnight. And that's been episode 61. Whoever thought, Craig, we started with 1 and we're still going at 61. So thank you for your attention and participation today, Craig.
Thank you, mate. But before we go,
yes,
it's a very special day today. I would like to wish my beloved Port Adelaide Football Club all the best in tonight's first final against the Geelong Cats.
Is this the first final ever, Craig? Or I need to?
No, this is not the first final ever, Dean. But it's a home final. Adelaide is up and about. It's a beautiful day here, and all I could say is calm the pair.
Yeah. So for those that are listening on, Craig currently has a scarf on with some letters called Power. And he's referring to some football team that he's very passionate about. So
very much so. Then this scarf I bought in 1998.
Very good. Well, that's a good investment of time there, Craig. So indeed, thank you, Craig, and good luck to your team at the weekend. And go from there. Thanks everyone.